Yo, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. With the NFL and college football seasons now finally over, I decided we're going to go full speed ahead into the draft content. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about why I believe Ja'Marr Chase is the best receiver in the draft. Now go ahead and get ready because this is going to be a slightly controversial one. So for this video, I'm going to break it down into three parts for why I think he's the best receiver in the draft. Part 1 is going to be measurables, part 2 is going to be his stats and comparing them to Devontae Smith and why I believe some of Devontae Smith's stats are kind of overrated when comparing the two. And lastly, his NFL traits that I think will make him just a great receiver in the league. Getting right into part 1, looking at his measurables. So Ja'Marr Chase, if you look at him and you look at his body, he's got more of an NFL body than the other top wide receivers in the draft. And by the top wide receivers in the draft, quite frankly, I mean Devontae Smith. I mean, that's who everyone has been talking about as the best wide receiver in the draft. A lot of people, at least. A lot of experts now are starting to lean towards Ja'Marr Chase, and I've been saying for a while that I think Ja'Marr Chase is better. But if you look at Devontae Smith, he comes in at about 6'1", about 175 pounds. Very long, but very slim. Not the most physical wide receiver in the world. In college, he was able to use his athleticism and that type of thing to get open. But in the NFL, when they've got guys that are bigger, stronger, faster, and can press him at the line of scrimmage, I think he's going to struggle. So that's why I think Ja'Marr Chase is better suited for the NFL if you look at his body. He's around the same height at around 6'6" rather. And he weighs in at around 200 to 210 pounds, which I think is going to help him a lot in the NFL when he goes up against guys who are going to press him, and he'll be able to get off of press breaks like that and still get open and not be getting bruised up battling against NFL corners, throughout the season. So I think physicality, that's going to be the main thing, honestly. It's going to separate Ja'Marr Chase from everybody else. And if you just look at the way he ran routes to LSU, he used his physicality to get open, be able to beat the press, but also to catch balls. I mean, if you look at just how he was able to use his physicality and his strength to high point balls, even though he's not the tallest guy in the world, he was still mossing on people just because of how strong he was and how strong his upper body was to kind of fight off DBs as he was trying to go up and catch the ball. But anyway, that's why I think his measurables set him apart from the rest of them. He doesn't have the same eye-popping numbers, which I'll get to in a second, as Devontae Smith. But if you look at his measurables, I think that's the first big thing that sets Ja'Marr Chase apart from the rest of the wide receivers in the draft. Moving on to part 2 of this comparison video, I want to look at Ja'Marr Chase's stats and compare them to Devontae Smith and why I think Devontae Smith's stats are a little bit overrated and overblown when comparing the two for the NFL. So just looking back at the straight numbers, so in Ja'Marr Chase's last season playing college football, he sat out this past year, but in the 2019 season with LSU, he had 84 catches, 80 yards, and 20 touchdowns. At the time, there was a SEC record for yards. Obviously, Devontae Smith broke it this past season. And then this past season, Devontae Smith had 117 catches, 1856 yards, 23 touchdowns. Devontae Smith, 15.9 yards per catch. Ja'Marr Chase, 21.2 yards per catch. So that's the first big thing that I want to point out. So Ja'Marr Chase, I think, has more big play ability than Devontae Smith. First of all, just looking at yards per catch. I mean, almost a 6-yard difference between the two of them in yards per catch. I mean, you look at all the big plays that Ja'Marr Chase had for LSU that season. I think he's more of a big play type receiver than Devontae Smith. Also, adding to that, in the last 2 seasons, and this stat's kind of crazy, Ja'Marr Chase has more 20-plus yard touchdowns than any receiver in college football, and he sat out this past season. And so I thought that was another stat that's just crazy when you talk about Ja'Marr Chase and his big play ability. But apart from that, as you can see, Devontae Smith's stats are better than Ja'Marr Chase. I mean, more yards, more catches, more touchdowns. What a lot of people don't remember is most of this past season, Devontae Smith was the only weapon in the Alabama offense after Jalen Waddle went down. So he was really the wide receiver that is getting targeted most of the, if not all of the time. So he was taking all of the catches and yards away from the other receivers on his team. If you look at Ja'Marr Chase, on the other hand, he didn't even lead the team in catches. I mean, this is the same team that also had Justin Jefferson, who should have won Rookie of the Year and is in the NFL now. You can't forget about guys like Terrace Marshall and Thaddeus Moss, who are also key weapons on that team as well. So if Ja'Marr Chase had the same kind of isolation and was relied on as much as Devontae Smith was, he would probably have just as good, if not better, numbers. And you look at his big playability. So I think stat-wise, if you really look at it like that, Ja'Marr Chase's stats, to me, look a little bit better. I mean, just to show that, so Mac Jones, Alabama's quarterback, threw 41 touchdowns this past season. Devontae Smith had 23 of them, which is more than half. In comparison, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow threw 60 touchdown passes that season, and Jamar Chase only had 20 of those. So I think when people bring up stats to say Devontae Smith is better, I think that's slightly overblown just if we look at the teams that they were on. And then also a big stat that comes out to me about Jamar Chase is big playability that I don't think Devontae Smith has as much. Alright, so for the final part about why Jamar Chase is the best wide receiver in the draft, and just kind of putting everything together that I've already said earlier in this video, just when you look at all these things that I've said, you just see that he has the NFL traits that a lot of guys that are successful in this league have. I mean, just look at, for example, Justin Jefferson, who also came out of LSU, who had a big rookie season this past year. Him and Justin Jefferson are very similar. I mean, that's what made LSU so good. They had two wide receivers who, similar kind of style, were physical, were still quick, fast, great route runners, made it very well at LSU, and it translated for Justin Jefferson into the NFL. I think that it'll be the same way for Jamar Chase when he gets in the NFL. The Eagles are most likely the team that's going to take him. I mean, that's where he's projected to go. And I think he'd be a very good fit there. You know, hopefully they can get their quarterback situation figured out. And that's a guy that they really could use. I mean, look at who they drafted last year. Jalen Reagor didn't put up the best numbers. A lot of people think that they should have got Justin Jefferson. So now they have a chance this season to make up for that. Still end up getting an LSU wide receiver too. But yeah, Jamar Chase, he just has the NFL traits. I mean, looking back at it, physicality is the biggest thing. And not only will it help him just catching passes, running routes, and beating DBs, but with his durability as well. I mean, the NFL season is a long season. And being a 175-pound wide receiver compared to a 200-pound wide receiver makes a big difference just when it comes to injuries and stuff throughout the year. And not just injuries, but just the wear and tear on your body throughout a long season. 16 games plus possibly the playoffs. I mean, it's much different from a college season, especially this past year where it was shortened with the COVID and all that stuff. And Jamar Chase also was taking a year off, so his body is likely more fresh than a lot of other wide receivers coming into the draft. So his durability based on his size is the biggest thing. His big playability also is going to help him. That's something that NFL GMs and coaches love to see. So overall, I think he has the best NFL traits, and I think that's what's really going to set him apart from the rest of the wide receivers in the draft class. Devontae Smith is a great wide receiver. He put out one of the most dominant seasons from a wide receiver in college football history, but I think when it comes to NFL and NFL capability, I think Jamar Chase has the higher ceiling, and I think he is the better wide receiver to take in this year's draft. Yo, thank y'all so much for watching. Let me know in the comment section who y'all think is the best wide receiver to take in the draft. Don't worry, there will be more draft videos coming between now and the actual draft, so I have many more videos like this to come. With all that being said, thank y'all so much for watching, and as always, Godspeed.